spent quite a bit of time talking about Tara because she's an important iconographic form in the art, and she's important within religious context. Now, we've divided up the different subjects of Tara visually into the 6 principal forms of green, white, red, the 8 fears, the 21 Taras, and then miscellaneous, a sort of a general category of miscellaneous. Now, within that miscellaneous, what it is primarily made up of are forms of Tara that don't fit into any of the other categories, such as the green, white, red. But you need to understand that within the green, white, red, 8 fears, and 21, there are miscellaneous, obscure, and rare forms as well. But we do have a miscellaneous category, and this category is not made up. It's not made up by Himalayan Art Resources. This is a category that we find coming out of the Rinjung Gyatso of Taranata, but we also find it from earlier collections of sadhanas from India and the early translations, such as the Badi Gyatso, the Patsap Gyatso, and others. So it is understood that there are this sort of random grouping of rare, obscure, not very often practiced forms of Tara. So, with that being said, the question has been asked, well, what about Mahachinakrama Tara? What is the source? What is the background of that? Well, we really have to look at the language first. The name, the Maha here means great or greater. Mahachinakrama means coming out of the tradition of China, the tradition of Greater China. So it is acknowledged in India in the, can't say for sure, but possibly the 7th, 8th, 9th century. There's a form of Tara, and she's considered to have come from China, or the tradition of the practice has come from China, but we don't know clearly what that means. I mean, it's possible that Lokesh Chandra might have more to say on this topic, but it could be that this practice went from India to China and then later was popularized somewhat in China and then came back to India, rather than being invented or created or manifesting in China. So there's really 3 study topics for this. The iconographic description, the sadhana collections, and then confusions. So the first, the description, this form of Tara is wrathful in appearance, 1 face, 4 arms. She holds a curved knife and a skull cup in the first pair of hands, and then she holds a sword and a blue utpala flower in the second pair. And she is generally standing, and her left leg is extended, right leg is bent. She has all the wrathful ornaments, hair bristling upwards, 3 eyes, freshly severed heads, bone ornaments, snakes, a distended stomach. All of this is described in the Sanskrit text, actually, and then translated into the Tibetan text. Okay, so then the second topic is sadhana collections. Well, we find the Mahachinakrama is found in the Badi Gyatso. It's found in the Druptap Gyatso, which is a Tibetan translation of a Sanskrit text which called the Ocean of Sadhanas, and we generally compare that or equate it with the Sadhana Mala of edited version from 1925 of Bhattacharya. And we have 2 texts in the Sadhana Mala collected by Bhattacharya, and I only skimmed them yesterday. I've not really read them. I just compared them for the description of the deity, but they did not appear to have any important useful historical information. Whether they have linguistic information, then we need a little bit of a closer read. Now, it's likely that the Mahachinakrama will also be found in the Patsap Gyatso and some of the other early translations of sadhana. So when I say early, I'm talking 11th, 12th, 13th century. translated from Sanskrit into Tibetan. Now, confusions. We only have really one major confusion, and that is with Ekajati. Ekajati with one face and four arms has exactly the same description in the early sadhana translations. So one face, four arms, the same attributes: curved knife, skull cup, sword, and utpala. The only difference is in art, from what we have been able to occasionally see, is that the Ekajati is sometimes shown dancing on the left leg with the right leg drawn up, and the Ekajati also does not necessarily have the yellow, orange, ochre hair flowing upward, but she has the hair tied into a single braid, which is actually what the term Ekajati means, single braid. Eka, single, one. Jat is the hair. And so this is noticed in some painting, but there's very, very little painting of Mahachinakrama to compare with. We definitely have more images of Ekajati to look at, but the Mahachinakrama is very rarely found in art. It is not generally talked about. There are not a lot of, or any that I've seen, commentarial texts or traditions of practice other than the Bharigyatsa and the Druptapgyatso, which are primarily practiced in Sakya and Kagyu traditions. So that's it for Mahachinakrama at this time. I do know of an article that was done in the 70s, sometime in the 1970s. I don't have that reference with me, but I will find it, and then I will put it on the HAR website under the page for the Mahachinakrama. So press the like button. You can subscribe. You can ask questions. You can also join HAR on Patreon and support what we do, and you can also make a donation on the homepage of the HAR website.